The United States is massive, with almost 4 million square miles spanning an entire continent and beyond, with frozen tundras, endless deserts, and everything in between. People always talk about visiting all 50 states, but what does visiting a state really mean?
This weekend, more than 37 million are hitting the roads. That's about 2 million more than last year.
A few months ago, I came across a great website that gives you a score based on the extent of your visit to a given US state or territory. The website makes living somewhere worth 5 points and then takes away 1 point for each following category until you get to 0, with the default being never been there. Here's my map, for example. I posted this website on my community tab, and Nork434 left a very poignant comment. Fun game. People were confused when I shared it though. Answers are going to depend on how you measure things. Does an overnight stay count as a visit or a stay? Does working a summer internship somewhere count as a visit, a stay, or living? That raised a lot of questions, so I wanted to try to define it using my own personal travel experience. Little did I know, it just raised more questions. I landed at the Baltimore airport, then immediately took an Uber to Washington, D.C., and only came back to Baltimore to fly back home, so I count Maryland as a state that I passed through or stopped at. I didn't spend the day there or anything, I literally just drove. In July of 2023, me and 3 friends packed into a car and drove from Phoenix, Arizona to Miami, Florida. During the trip, we drove through 7 states, all of which I had previously visited except for Arizona and New Mexico. We spent 2 nights in Arizona, visiting Phoenix, Sedona, and Flagstaff in the process. I can comfortably say that I've stayed in Arizona because I spent at least 1 night there. When I went to New Mexico, however, I drove across the entire state and even ate at the real Los Pollos Hermanos. Some might define it as just passing through, but I would classify it as more of a visit. We even did a touristy activity. During my visit to Washington, D.C., I went to Arlington National Cemetery right across the border in Virginia. Now, would you call that a visit or just passing through? I counted it as a visit, but maybe I'm being too generous because I just want to say that I visited Virginia. Then again, does spending a couple hours in a small part of a state actually count as visiting that state? If I wanted to get even more into the details, can I really say that I've been to California if I just spent 3 days in Los Angeles? My experience would be completely different from someone who, say, went to San Francisco. Would it be more appropriate then to just say that I've been to Southern California or even just LA itself? But on the other hand, visiting a state could just mean visiting any area within that state. It doesn't necessarily have to apply to the state as a whole. This can even apply to countries. I was born in the Brazilian state of Minas Gerais and lived there for 5 non-consecutive years throughout my life. In that time, I visited only 2 other Brazilian states. In recent years, I've realized that when I talk about Brazil, I'm actually talking about just Brazil as I know it, or Minas Gerais, which, while lovely, is a small rural state that does not speak for the rest of the country. Desculpa que não fiz vídeo sobre o Brasil até hoje. Alguma hora vai chegar. Here's a hypothetical. You live in Newark, New Jersey, and you commute to Manhattan 5 times a week for work, spending 40 hours a week in New York State. How would you classify that? You spend almost as much time there as somebody who lives there when you actually don't. Hypothetically, somebody could do this their entire life without ever spending the night there, but then would that person's career just count as a series of repeated visits? If you Google the definition of visit as a noun, the first result defines it as an act of going or coming to see a person or place socially, as a tourist, or for some other purpose. This fits pretty well with how we've defined it so far, but the second definition kind of throws a wrench in the discussion. A temporary stay with a person or at a place. Keyword stay, as in the category above visit. While looking online, I found something called the 50 State Club. It's called the All 50 Club, Andre. Get a grip. Whose name is pretty self-explanatory. Their website states, the All 50 Club allows members to set their own stipulations for what counts as a state visit. However, our general guideline is that to count a state, you must set foot on the ground of that state and breathe the air. This rules out airport layovers and flyovers. I generally agree with this, but under this definition, someone could visit the Four Corners Monument between Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado, and go between different states in a matter of seconds. But then, should states be worth a different amount of points depending on how much of that state that you explored? For example, if I visited Miami, Tampa, and Tallahassee, should I get more points for Florida than if I had just visited Miami? Could we come up with some way to count the points based off of how many congressional districts the person has visited, or maybe even just counties if we wanted to make it simpler? It's almost as if this is all hypothetical and I'm just asking questions for the sake of asking questions. Either way, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. How many states have you visited, and how many points did you get on the website that I linked? If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.